Hi, everyone. This is Vicente Cruz, Oakland Greens Event and Fundraising Coordinator. Boy, am I in the dark today. Oh, there you go. That's better. Welcome to our July public monthly meeting report back as it's transitioning. We will go over agenda review, do our discussions, and then do our business. And then, of course, the unrecorded sessions, which you are also willing to attend, just the Treasury report. Um, for the other two that are here, was there anything I needed to add to the agenda? No, it looked good. All right.
Yeah.
What we're doing is the new T-shirt update. Uh, Democratic Socialists of America wins landslides in New York City. Losing your job for something done on personal time. Pride 2026 report back. Uh, the Kids Internet and Digital Safety Act. Deleting social media. World Cup 2026, Cabo Verde. AI data centers, general strike, excuse me, money in politics, Israel, and we're going to stop again because as we said off camera, the article I got, we're going to talk about FOSTA-SESTA again and the trafficking. Then we have the County Green report backs. So that would be Suds Snacks and Socialism report back, Green Sunday report back, social media outreach events, June movie night. We have the July movie night, the first already of all the movies for 2027. Announcements, and then we go to the non-recording session on Treasury Report. Thanks, everyone. So, first thing, T-shirts. They're here. They are done. They look great. Like I said, to try and make sure that we do recoup the expense, even though we did have it covered. Uh,
Yes.
I want to I went with more of the a basic design, so it is the same. Both T-shirts have the same front patch, but the back is just the beautiful sunflower Oakland greens in the Omnis Pro font and the website. They're really, really basic. I think, at least for our audience that comes to movie nights, I think those will actually get the most donations and people will like the best. We have
Yes.
small sizes, small through 2XL, and we have them in orange and green. They will be for a anywhere between 35 and $99 donation. Really, I'm expecting more 35 to $50 donations. Anytime that comes in, we will make sure to reach out to the people making, even if they make it anonymous donations, I can still contact them myself and or anyone who has, anyway, has the access can contact them and go, hey, you thank you for your donation. You get a free T-shirt. Would you like it? And get it to them somehow. And we also will have them at the movie nights as well. And yeah, so and we'll still have the old ones. We still have old shirts too. Those I will just, I've just been kind of if someone wants them, giving them away. But what I found, and again, the reason that I went, excuse me again, to more basic design, it seemed that, again, it does not bode well for our audience, but the people that show up to our events, green or not, still have a little bit of walls or standoffish with the true sound of liberty, saying, kind of the metaphor that Oakland Green Party and the Oakland Greens and Greens in general just are more radical voices here in the Bay Area than other groups. Um, so anyway, so that's why we went basic. But both of those will be there, and again, will be for donation based and stuff like that, and we'll have them at any events we do. Any questions? No? All
Yeah. I'll be next week. I'll come grab one next
right,
week around Tuesday,
cool.
Wednesday.
Nice, yeah. And because we
Yeah.
didn't do black, we went didn't doing green and orange and the burnt oranges. The green came out amazing. Like
That's the one I want.
it's really, really bright. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the party green color, and yeah, it just came out. I mean, the orange doesn't look shitty either.
Yeah.
Anyway, oh, now just going into our discussion. Uh, First thing that caught my attention, how I write the agendas and all that. The Democratic Socialist America ticket. candidates, kind of swept New York City in
Yes.
their last elections. And my question to the two of you, and what I will discuss too, like, what does this say for the electorate now? Like, are we shifting, the younger generation? Do you think that maybe we're about to take a real significant step forward in getting progressive politics and just more policies that have our tax dollars work for everyone as opposed to the wealthy, rich, and the few?
Go
Unmute,
ahead, Greg.
Greg. I see you talking, but you gotta unmute. There you go.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know because I think every city's different. I think it's too early to think of any trend. I know San Francisco politics is pretty conservative, that they don't have a lot of progressive stuff going on in San Francisco. And Berkeley has also not been very progressive for a while. Um, but for bigger cities, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to tell. I think we just have to look at city by city, and it's too early to look at a national trend.
And could it
And
be
of course,
Uh,
based, I'll ask to
but
you, Greg, could it be based on economic, because you say San Francisco is a more conservative city, but there's a lot of wealth there, not even rich, whereas New York City itself has such a diaspora of economics that the people who are, just getting by, that may not be paycheck to paycheck, but say, oh, if I was to lose my job 2 to 3 months, I could still survive. They're voting more that way. Again, when you go by city, what do you think?
yeah, that's a good point. It could be that cities that have more working class people are uh, going to be more motivated and active to come out for more progressive candidates. It could be happening. Somebody have to take a look at that because you know you're right. San Francisco is relatively more wealthy, um, so we'd have to compare different cities on that question.
the, and to add on to it, I believe is the progressive movement was only an American movement, and I believe since we got a diversity movement with Palestine, we have the Muslim community. The conversation is shifting now. So instead of being more local issues, it's more international issues. Is more issues that locally you can't put the racism to it like it was in the beginning. Hey, we're gonna go for black people. Hey, the whites doing this. Now, how you gonna do with the Indians? What you gonna do with the the Fijis? What you gonna do with the people from India? So that conversation is different, and then the education bracket is different too. So a lot of them is college kids, inherit money, state money. So when you get that pocket of progressive people, they get overshadowed. It's like you get Ben Crump to be a lawyer, but he's a civil rights attorney. He trying to go get the bag. He ain't trying to solve the case. He trying to just bring the awareness out, more information. But I agree, it's a Palestine movement. I just believe it's a more shift in that area.
Well, and dare I even say more of a anti-genocide movement, because inside of Palestine now, at least on my algorithms and even out and about at different, even the smaller rallies,
Mhm.
they are mixing in uh, Saudi Arabia, Sahara,
Yes.
Congo, what is happening over there, as well, which we'll even dive more into that when we get to the World Cup section. But still sticking with the DSA 1 2. So also what I would like to ask, so San Francisco, when you mention it again, having it too, they still seem to have taken a stance, and of course it's nowhere near enough. We could fully fund it, but San Francisco seems to have a stronger nonprofit industrial complex that gets donations from wealthy people and the city and the taxpayer. So at least they've taken a stand like, oh, well, we'd at least like to kind of clean it up a little bit and have more services. I don't know if people remember, I mean, Food Not Bombs feeds tons of people in several locations in San Francisco 3 times a day. They've been doing it for decades, right? There is still needle exchanges. There's way, again, it's not enough, but there's way more services to get people who want to off of the hard drugs, and which again, even I always said this too, that ties in, and then I want to hear what people think of that. And even by doing so, a large percentage of all the people, because a lot of them are veterans, right? If you gave them treatment, you gave them services, they would end up going up and being fucking productive capitalists. Like, you'd make more money, you'd make more tax dollars off of these people if you put this resource into getting them off of the street and into the system that you corrupt. Anyway, but that's again just goes back to it about being controlled. But what do you think? Do you think that San Francisco has that shift of mindset even among the people with the actual, corporations and, Silicon Valley tech and all the people that live there, that, oh, well, we'd rather you take our tax dollars and keep these, give these motherfuckers housing and treatment so it keeps my street clean so I can walk to the corner store. You think that is true? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think it's true. They got rid of London Breed. Now you see the whole different shift now. It's more corporate now. Keep your mouth shut. Let's keep these billion-dollar buildings unvacant. Let's keep these going so we can fill up occupation down the road. Yeah, I believe it's a major shift. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they've actually reduced homelessness that much. I think maybe they push the homeless to areas that are where they're not seen as much. So, and yeah, they've always had a lot of services. Any city that has a fairly high amount of money is going to have services, and especially in cities that have better climate. Because if you're in Chicago and it's 10 below or 20 below in the winter, you're not going to have as many homeless people there. But yeah, in most parts of California, there's a lot of homeless people, and um, I suspect it probably hasn't gone down that much. They just shifted the homeless population to areas that they're less visible to the wealthy people.
Right. Of course, that
Yeah.
is that. Yeah, they definitely do that.
To add on that too, though, the only difference is the homeless is only category if you get Social Security or if you get general assistance. They're taking most of the people who got Social Security. They on their dying leg. Uh, to be personally, I got a sister that's in a situation like that. She's very ill, very sick. She's in San Francisco. They only using her for her check. They putting her in all these places, and then on the weekends they send her to a 5150. But if she didn't have financial income or Medicare that can benefit their program, she'd be out on the street. So it's
Oh
like
yeah,
selective. Go
right.
ahead, Greg.
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, if you don't have any source of income, you're out in the street. And it seems like about a year and a half ago, they passed some law, or I should say, it wasn't a law, it was a court ruling that said that basically the government has no obligation to help keep you off the street. There used to be a ruling, it was called the Boise decision. It was a court ruling that said that um, cities like, have to allow you to have a place to put up your tent, right? So if you had a tent on a public property or something, and they couldn't just say no, you can't put it up anywhere in the city on any public. There was a ruling that said that people need a place to sleep, and so from a standpoint of human rights, it's human rights that you have to have a place to sleep. If you can't afford it, then the city's supposed to provide it. But then the Supreme Court, I think, yeah, Supreme Court overturned that, and they said, no, there's no right to being able to have a place to sleep. So any city or any government can just kick people out if they want. So that's the way it is now. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's not. Hmm, man. Well, and I know that it leaves when we talk about big cities and all that, where I was born, Philadelphia is probably still I mean, as far as like squatting, like, taking over public buildings and fixing them up and just opening them up to houseless folks and doing it on their own, Philadelphia still has the largest per capita for that. But they seem to have forgotten about all of their people who are addicted to drugs. Um, uh, they have what's called Kensington Beach. It's Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia. It's sort of like what Sepulveda would be in LA. It's just this long street that goes through the entire city, right? It definitely connects everything. But they call it Kensington Beach because of all the junkies look like they've been washed up onto the sidewalk by a wave of well, now they're using it's called Trank. It's a horse tranquilizer mixed with fentanyl and stuff. And the city just doesn't seem to care anything about that. So, but yes. Oh, that was very, very good. If you don't mind, we're going to go ahead and move on. The next one that I wanted to talk about, which actually came from what's happening to which happens a lot now that everybody has cameras, to people who would be prejudiced. Um, I wouldn't classify them as racist because they're still working class themselves, but they want to go around and call everybody nigger or whatever. Godfrey's doing a piece and other people doing to leave black people alone, which is hilarious. You should check it out on your videos and stuff like that too, because people just aren't taking it. But what I think on that, before I get into it, is that we're taking it out on each other, but definitely, in the actual moment, yeah, don't call me a nigger because I'll pop you in the fucking mouth quick. It's people are taking out their frustrations on each other, whether it be the prejudiced person or the person defending themselves against the verbal attack, when really we want to be pointing it towards the system, right? Dismantling a corrupt capitalist system and kind of creating something new that works more for everyone, right? That's really, but for whatever reason, we can't get over that hump to put the energy in the right way. But anyway, but some of this is when they do that, then all of a sudden, people find their LinkedIn and they lose their jobs and all these different things too. And as a person who has also been not asked back to places because of your radical politics, on the other end of that too, I don't agree with that whatsoever. I started saying this way back after the Nazi rally and on University of Virginia campus, the Tiki Torch dudes or whatever. And one of the people who lost their job I guess he went to Berkeley and worked at the hot dog place that's right across from campus or whatever. And when they saw him on news as prominent, they fired him. I'm like, well, I don't think that's right. But unless they brought that to their job, like, are they spitting in people's food? Are they like, pissing in? Are they doing something negative? Are they, I'm not going to serve a Jew, right? Are they doing something of that nature? Then you definitely fire them. But what you do on your personal time, and that goes for anything, and if it doesn't affect, you should not have to, uh, you shouldn't be subject to any retribution in your workplace. That's what I believe, but I would love to hear what others think on that as well. Let's go, Greg.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, they have all these rights where you can't be discriminated against for race, gender, sexual preference. There's a whole bunch of laws that say that anti-discrimination laws. You can't be discriminated against for all these different things, but you know, political beliefs or activism is not included in there. So there's no law, as far as I know, that protects people from the whim. I guess you say the whim of the employer. The employer doesn't have to give a reason.
Well, they definitely got around that with the right to work. But I still say that even your blip falls under discrimination. You're discriminating against me um, as well. So, I mean, that would be in a courtroom, that would be my debate on that.
Well, I mean, it's definitely discrimination, but it's not, as far as I know, covered by any law, and that's where the employer gets to, you know, have the advantage and say, well, I'm not breaking any law, so I'm firing you. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not, I don't agree whatsoever. I think it's a bad idea. Um,
Yeah.
should be
Well, we can get all the progressive people to boycott that hot dog place.
that, right. That too. That's how they would do that as well too. I wish they would do that for other things too. Like I'm always shouting at people to get rid of their Amazon Prime
Mm.
subscription. Like really, if you really care about the fact that those workers have to piss in Gatorade bottles, they don't get breaks and all that, really, but yet you're supporting it, you know. And I wouldn't say, like I said, and no one is perfect. The Greens, maybe twice a year we order from Amazon. But even when, like, on my own personal, every time I even buy chocolate, I am fully aware and actually say it out loud when I buy it. They're like, oh, if someone says something like, oh, you're getting chocolate, it's like, hell yeah, I got to do my part to support child slavery, right? And it's at the source, so it doesn't matter whether it says fair trade
Mm.
or any of that stuff too, because child slavery is actually at the coca bean. So it's like
Mm.
way at the beginning of production. So it's not even chocolate at that point. But anyway, I think that's the same thing when we do and anytime I've talked about like being seen, being green, and like just saying it loudly and proudly in some sort of humorous way at the grocery store, I think is like, again, it's putting that energy stuff out there. But unless, like I said, the person does something and that reason, well, but see, I guess in that instance of the example I'm giving, it wouldn't matter because if you did it, wouldn't matter what your politics were. If you spit in someone's food or you were giving them bad service, the company wouldn't like that. But let me give an example of kind of really what I'm talking. When I was in the Navy, believe it or not, there's tons and tons of prejudiced people in the service. And but jets and props on military aircraft, when you're around it, it's very dangerous. Flight decks are very dangerous. Well, there's a plane called, it's an A7 and it has this huge intake on it. It looks like a mouth. We call it Jaws. And one time I almost got sucked in. The person who saved me was someone who was known to be in the base chapter of the Ku Klux Klan.
Mm.
That was the person who saved me.
Mm.
Never talked to me outside of work or outside of being on shift or anything like that. But in that moment, right now, if they wouldn't have, that would be a reason for a court martial, whether I was killed or
Mm.
not. If you didn't save me and it was because, oh, I don't like black people, well
Mm.
then that too. But that's not what happened, right? You know, no thank you, no nothing, just going about our business. But again, that
Mm.
is something that happened. Now, there's why I also where it puts into my belief and my ethic, like, oh, as long as you don't do something negative on the job, then you shouldn't lose your job because you don't like black people or you don't like interracial, interethnic dating, or whatever the fuck it is, right? Yeah. Anyway, anything else? Moving on. So we just got out of Pride month, and I guess first, and I am sure it's in video and interviews. I've said it before. We've said it before too, where the whole concept of trying to set aside specific times to recognize that you should be doing it every fucking day. If you don't think, well, if you don't think it's happening on a positive basis every day, and again, we're speaking specifically about Pride. If you don't think that the LGBTQ plus community is out there taking care of your elderly, taking care of you when you go to the emergency room, hospital, fixing your food, uh, fucking cleaning your streets, everything, teaching your kids, and you aren't acknowledged that. Like I said, every time I buy chocolate, and we don't know that every day, which I don't believe that to be true of people. And I think that it's still part of the system by having only 1 month, all that shit, only Mother's Day, Father's Day, all that shit is just a way to control people, right? Especially when you get into the capitalism aspect of it too. No, don't fucking go and spend time with your mother. Get your ass back to work. We set aside a day for you to show your mother you love them. Everything else, fucking make sure you're working for the bosses. That's too. But specifically about Pride, why it even came up to, I mean, aside from the fact that we would talk about it every year, is this year it seemed to, because of the political climate, I would, again, this is opinion, taking a step back. What is an opinion is that the police were very, very violent during Pride. They were very violent on Friday at the Trans March. They were violent at the Dyke March, but surprisingly not so much for the men. And ironically, is the Sunday event um, also sponsored by all these corporations? Huh, I wonder if there's a connection between that. I will say too that in my community, my circle, we stopped going to the Sunday one when, pretty soon after it started. And in fact, we were like, oh, if they do it to the fucking Dyke March on Saturday, and Transmart was like, yeah, then fucking you're gonna hear about us in jail. Of course, we said this is after 2 bottles of wine, but it was very still it's the sponsorship for corporations that what maybe 15 years ago were extremely anti, very homophobic. Right? Budweiser, really, really, fucking uh, any of that shit. Miller, like, fucking what? Get out of here. No, fuck you. I also think that it has become more of a party. I would say that is true. Everything except for the Trans March on Fridays. Maybe that's because they're still dying at the rate of murdered and missing Indigenous people. Uh, and I will break. Yes, Orlando, please.
Yeah, I echo. I think it's like you said. I believe it's more educational now. It's not a public perception for profit no more. When the big media got into it, oh, the gays, the homes, the transsexual, AIDS, disease, chlamydia, all those things. And then when people just really got educated about just life in general, really if they care who you go to bed or not with, it's more as who the individual. They can't play that game no more. You can't go scare nobody and say, hey, he a homosexual. But like you said, Vicente, he just helped my mama who had a heart attack. He just gave my partner some Norcans. They didn't have nothing to do with sex or nothing. But when it comes to Richard Pryor or a black actor dressing up as a woman and whatnot, they weren't looking at the educational. They was only looking at, hey, these people's gonna all turn out and nobody don't ask nobody if they gay when they out in the streets. Echo over.
Right. Well, and I think especially when it comes to the diaspora, our people, and they say that about like, oh, they're trying to emasculate me. And that may be true, but that is not how it started. Flip Wilson had a character called Geraldine. Well, unfortunately, that was like his stick even before when he was doing like the small clubs and shit, like the strip clubs and shit too, right? Um, but yes, I think that they have definitely strayed away from it becoming about the social justice for the community, right? Again, except for the trans moms, and maybe that's because again they're getting jumped and killed at a rate the same as what's happening on the res, pretty much. But again, it goes back to capitalism too, as the economic status of all those people of all across, whether excuse me, your African diaspora, and you can sit at the table like they do and eat like they do, and same thing. What is it? I used to have a bumper sticker that said, "I don't mind straight people as long as they act gay in public," because that used to the opposite of that used to be it was an actual saying too. It was like, of course, we don't mind that you're gay in the workplace as long like don't ask, don't tell, and shit like that. Um, but yes, and they've gotten away from also the safe sex aspect. I find that to be true in the adult content community, and even which we will get to as well, even to the street providers, right out there too, right? I mean, we are talking about trafficking and drug use too, but it doesn't get hit on enough that we need to talk about safe sex, and that there isn't enough of that. And I would agree that has been something that was lacking in Pride's forever and definitely was not here at 2026. And moving on again. So then they're trying to, or because I don't think it's actually up to HR 7757, the Kids Internet and Digital Safety Act. Anyone know what I'm talking about? Yeah, right. They say, of course, it's sort of like in the last of this too, the FOSTA-SESTA. They name it something that sounds like you're going to try and protect kids, but what it really does is open up to spy on them, and that way they can target them for products. Like, oh, great. So I don't have to deal with sexual predators. I have to deal with capitalist predators instead, right? How to get my kid to become good consumers, and all stuff. And as many things in our dysfunctional government, right, it doesn't protect them from predators online at all, right? And so I just think that we put these laws into play. Well, stop myself. Of course, it's not just the dysfunctional government. We realize now that the entire fucking capitalist system, this global corporations and governments, there is a huge cabal of fucking pedophiles and herbophiles. It's not just Epstein Island. They're every fucking where. And we take it. And it's in this general discussion too. And I don't understand why the people aren't so fucking angry that they're still participating in this bullshit. They keep going to start like they should, and it would, oh God, it would be so easy. It's because everything about them is about the money, right? I guess the only way really Kimmel got on is because everybody started canceling their Disney subscriptions, right? But they don't do that for the children. Like, why are you not, fucking, and I'm doing that a lot online is we just watched Democracy Now! They were talking about the new movie, The Odyssey, that had just come out from Homer's poem. And like, some of the scenes were filmed in the Sahara Desert where they're having one of the many ethnic cleansings that are going on around the planet. And they're like, oh, and they never should have done it and boycott it. And I'm like, so are you, in the comments, I'm asking the question, so are you saying that if they would not have, if Western Sahara said, hey, we want you to come and film here, and they go, we will if you stop, that they would say, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to stop ethnic cleansing. Yes, we will stop that. No, it's not going to happen. But I guess, Amy, you're going to call for a general strike instead. You're going to call on the Teamsters and the Green Party and the Democratic Party and all these other big, large groups that, hey, shut it down. You're going to do that, are you? Fuck no, you're not. Because they're all fucking making money in the system. They are part of it, right? And that's what we call the nonprofit industrial complex, right? Fucking, I bet you if Democracy Now! Was to get shut down tomorrow, does you think in a few months Amy's going to lose her hope? Or will she just sell probably one of the other ones that she has to make up for it so she can survive another year while she's trying to figure out what her next move is going to be, right? Or does her book deals and speaking tours cover her, right? Is her house already paid off, even if she only has one, right? How's your electric car? Like, I mean, it's fucking bullshit, right? So anyway, that too, which I guess falls right into the next one is, where did I get this from? Like I watch news reports and videos, and then I put it on the agenda. So the question come up with deleting social media. I would say that I've always been reluctant. Like by the time I get to any social media application, any platform, it's been around for a while, and that's true of everything. Like I was late to MySpace, late to Facebook, and all this, and I wouldn't even be on it now, except for it is such a part of our lives, and and I'm obviously working with alternative political parties and alternative political thinking, and just trying to kick people, make them grow some ovaries and become producers of the social justice and politics of their community as opposed to consumers of it. Although, because I thought the question first came in my head to put to you two is like, oh, is that even viable at this point, like with AI and everything, to delete it? But then it came to my head too, will it possibly just be deleted for us? because believe it or not, somehow, and it's coming. It is so close, like you can damn near taste it, where we will lose like all of the Eastern Seaboard when it comes to electricity. So now you have no internet, right? There's no nothing, right? Everything is shut down. Doesn't matter how much money you have on your ATM card because that information is not there. You can't get to it. In Orlando, yes.
You made a good point because I followed the trend, and when social media first started, I was one of the MySpace guys. But everybody who got on MySpace learned how to code. You had to build your own MySpace page for coding and algorithm. It was all genuine. And then they had Moco Space where you had all these different spots. But I believe what you said too, in a sense, Vicente, I believe they're gonna shut social media down. It's too many IPI numbers. It's too much going on. I think they're gonna reset it and try to shift everyone back to their site. But the key is to take all your personal information that you have, and like they did on MySpace, and wipe it away forever. You can never get none of your pictures, none of your data.
Oh, but I think they'll keep it because they use that for
Yes.
advertising. Right? They've been mining, and some other psychologists too say that they've pretty much marketed everything within capitalism except for your time. Now they don't really want your money so much anymore, but they want you like how long are you staying on Facebook? How long are you staying on Instagram? How long are you on WhatsApp? I'm trying to think of TikTok, of course, now is super, super huge. Twitter is still, but really, again, it's my own algorithm. Twitter is nothing but fucking sex workers. Like I don't get the right wing shit, obviously, because that's not me. But because of working with people in the content world, like it's all that. That's all it is. Well, mine is that sports and politics, which I don't know if that all ties together. Um, but yeah, so I think that eventually it'll shut down itself because everybody will lose power and they won't be able to go. And for those of us that grew up without it, I think we will have an edge up on the younger generation that doesn't remember landlines or TV that shut off at night. It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are? Those type of things, where there was only 5 channels, yeah, 3 even.
Yeah.
TV was live, wasn't taped. There wasn't taped. They don't have those skills anymore. And we're all kind of affected by it, too. Like how many people remember all the phone numbers? When I was a kid, I remembered everybody's phone number
Mm.
in my head. Right now, I can only remember my mother's. I don't remember, like it's all in my phone, right? Kathleen
The
Manning.
phone numbers got longer though. You didn't have to have an area code. At least when I was a kid, you didn't have to have an area code. Phone
Unless they
local.
were out of your area code,
Yeah, 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 sure.
you know, and payphones and payphone
Well,
cards. They were
yeah, when's the last time you saw a payphone?
Yeah. Well, last time I saw a payphone definitely was a week ago, but it wasn't. It didn't work.
Well, that's what I meant. Yeah, working payphone. Yeah.
I don't even know. I'm sure there's still some somewhere, right? There has to be, I would
Yeah.
imagine. But who's carrying around coins, cash to fucking get it going? Like, oh great, I have a fucking dial tone, but I can't fucking put a quarter in.
They probably put your credit card in the payphone nowadays. So.
Oh, if they were smart and all that stuff too. Nah, I'm not gonna digress. But okay, moving on, which actually I think may tie into something you were saying before, Orlando, because the World Cup just ended today, and contrary to what they said too, that nobody was going hotels or whatever. I did not see that. I was working in San Francisco tons of times. They may not have been going to the games, but every bar was full, tons of watch parties. We dropped off TVs at tons of places, big
Mhm.
TVs and screens for people, so that establishments, restaurants, bars. parking lots that were having watch parties and things too, and people were out and forth. So I don't know. It seemed like the hotel industry and everything, at least in the Bay Area, because we had games up here too, was doing pretty well. But I don't know if they were actually going to the games. The game was sold out today over there too, even though it was super, super expensive. So I don't know. We'll see. But it's, the story of that was more of the forefront. FIFA has always been one of the most corrupt organizations. Might as well damn near say they're their own country in themselves, like the Vatican in some aspects. Um, but this year it has come out, seemed to be a lot more, and it's surprising that Argentina didn't win. Like I don't know if it was from the pressure, and it came up a lot, at least on my algorithm too. It was like choose your colonizer World Cup edition. Like Spain is our World Cup champion. Like that one of the first colonizers, especially over Argentina and all of that continent as well. We had that too, and of course you had the incredible story for Cabo Verde, and what that's going to do for their GDP. I am so interested to see what's going to happen next year for that small island African nation. People are going there, right? I'm like, people are buying their jerseys and everything. I mean, it should be. I admit I don't know a lot about that. It's actually even smaller than Puerto Rico. I don't know a lot about their government there, so hopefully they'll take those resources and use it for the benefit of the people. But I mean, we'll see. Capitalism's
It's
everywhere.
it's actually way smaller than Puerto Rico. I think Puerto Rico has like 3 million people. I think Cabo Verde only has like 50,000 people.
500,000, half a million. They're
Half a million.
the size of Rhode Island.
All right.
But Rhode Island still
Well,
has more people, but the island chains and all that are about the size of Rhode Island. So they get
okay. Well, anyway,
way
it's really
small.
small.
It's
So
really tiny.
yeah, it's going to be great for them.
Yes, it is going to be amazing. Um, and I always use the World Cup as a way again to talk about, there's the plot. Well, and I admit too that we have been asked, the Oakland Greens have been asked to why we do a lot of like the movie nights, more into entertainment and sports and all that. And my answer, which has always been, is that if we can figure out how the fuck FIFA has gotten all this whole planet to love this one sport, if 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 progressive politics, we could figure out how to get all those people to participate and again become producers of the politics globally, we would have the utopia that we were looking for. Hey, Bill's coming in. Have the utopia that we actually all want. The kind of world that we would love to see. That it, again works for everyone and not just the few. So that's where all of our stuff comes up when it comes to sports. Hey, Bill. Uh, and then moving on from that, the next one is AI data centers, which I'll start on that with aside from the fact like how bad it is for the environment and everything. But there seems to be all of a sudden some pushback on data centers. And but please, I have no quotes on exactly where, but there's 3 cases where it's actually, they've already blocked construction of them because of like the environmental impact and again, mining everybody's data so that they can, what is it going to be? Westworld, maybe, that they're trying to figure out how to upload everybody's consciousness to the internet so some people can live forever until they pull the plug. But has anyone like what are other people's thoughts on the big data centers that are being built?
Well, it's resistance happening all over the country. Um, and, I think there are 2 questions that are related, but not one and the same. One is how do data centers relate to AI? And, what, uh, what will it take to stop these? And a lot of it is very local. Even if people don't have an overall view of what's going on, they don't want it in their backyard. And I think the question is what kind of national demands. There's been a lot of debate and discussion about it. Bernie Sanders involved, others are involved. So what can we do, including but not limited to just local resistance? I know within the labor movement, there's all sorts of debate and discussion, but again, it's a question of what our goals are rather than just acknowledging that it's or not rather, but not limited to the fact that it's a big problem. So um, anyway, yes, I mean it's not going to go away, and of course the other thing that's not being discussed is how this relates to capitalism. In terms of capital accumulation, in terms of investments right now, um, it financially is part of a rather large bubble that I'm not trying to draw analogies to other financial bubbles yet, but it's certainly something to be very concerned about.
Agreed. Greg, got anything?
No, I think Bill said it most. I mean, it does look like that if there's enough resistance in this country, only a smaller proportion than what they wanted will get built in this country, but they're already going all over the world. So, I'm sure they're going to end up bamboozling or pushing their way into enough countries to get most of what they want. Like even though it's a financial bubble this right now, they still have so much money that they use all that money to if not directly convince and maybe even some places bribe the people to get their way to build their data centers. But yeah, anybody's guess what's going to happen with it, and it's definitely tied into the AI, and so who knows if any of that AI stuff is going to come true. But right now, with all their money, they're trying to build it to make their dreams come true, I guess. And yeah, it'd actually be horrible because if any of it does happen in the capitalist system, it just means that they're going to have more control over everybody else. So
Oh, for sure. And it's funny, one of the things that came to my mind over this was there's been a few documentaries 5 years ago or so about like when Nestle buying up all the water, right? And that they will have control of all the clean drinking water and all stuff. But who knew that really what will make it so that we have no clean drinking water will be these data centers because they need so much to cool them. And even the other argument, if they go to like liquid chemical cooling, some sort of too, well, that still draws like a lot of power
Right.
to keep all that stuff still to keep it cool 24 hours a day and all that. And I can 98%, and that's being generous. I really do 99.9, but 98 percentile, Greg, AI is going to kill us. It will. It will make the same determination of algorithm that Homo sapiens are just a cancer on the planet, like that need to be removed. The best thing for you all would be extinction, right? Right. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. That's like over 1,000 to 4,000 watts. It's gonna kill the grid.
Right? You want to talk about
It
climate change?
yeah, and it requires 1 million gallons of water daily. Not
Yeah.
yeah.
And you can't
What if
recycle it either. Like it'd
yes,
be different if you could recycle, right? But you
yes,
can't because eventually it would just become hot water.
yeah.
Because the reason they use water is they're trying to keep it cool, like you would need for your computer, or sometimes you have to put fans on, whatever.
You might as well say California. We'll be in a drought soon.
Yep, back to it.
Well, one thing that's interesting, I think, spending time in the classroom is young people are very aware that both environmentally and in terms of what AI, and again, they are distinct but related. AI means in terms of employment or lack of employment. So it raises, a whole range of issues of the whole capitalist system. Um, even while there are many other issues that are breathing down our necks. But it's, beyond these local struggles, I'm not sure what we will unify around. I mean, that to me is still the big issue is, how do we organize? So anyway, I'll stop.
Yeah, well, that has been the question for years and years, decades and decades. When I first even joined, when I got to Oakland and doing the green stuff, is how do we do that? Which it ties into the next one is about what I think a general strike is like. I mean, a national, real general strike, and how do we convince the big labor organizations to actually take on this mantle? But even organizations like Bay Area Resistance, which is blown up. Actually, Black Lives Matter is actually now a nonprofit organization. It's not just a movement anymore. They actually are, why are, but I mean, I know why I think it is because again, now once it starts making money and you have the organizers now making, $200,000-$300,000 a year, they don't want to lose that because now, I got a place for my kid to sleep. Since I can't pitch a tent anywhere, right? They have to, so there's that aspect to it. And something else that we talked about last month too, it's where it's good for you, it's not good for the movement, and how do we convince people to just buckle down and for better or for worse, at the beginning, do what's always best for the movement and not what's best for yourself, right? The needs of the many over the one. And I don't know what it is. I know that it's not coming from me. And I also try to tell people, like, I don't say anything that's really all original. I just happen to read a lot of wise people and smart people who dedicate their life, and it's nothing that anyone else doesn't do either. Autobiography of Malcolm X, Baldwin, and it's just over and over and over again. Sojourner Truth, Rosa Clemente, over and over, and you can just go on and on and on and on and on and on.
Well,
go ahead.
The question of the level of mass action, and including but not limited to a general strike, is on people's minds. So discussions when I was at Labor Notes dealing with this generated a lot of interest, and of course the target date for 2028 is one of the goals, you might say. But the question is what leads up to it. What historically, if you put aside what W.E.B. Du Bois said about obviously the resistance against slavery, especially around the time of the Civil War, there's only been one thing in U.S. history that could, beyond that, constitute a general strike on a national level, which was in 1877. Most general strikes have emerged from specific conditions in specific locales, understanding that there was a general resistance to capitalism. And I'm not saying that can't happen. We used to think that talk like this was, premature or unrealistic. And now people generally think it is realistic. But again, it's how do you organize towards this, and what will trigger it, beyond just having a target date. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't be thinking about it, but it won't happen overnight. It takes a lot of organizational, how can you say, but and it shouldn't just be the labor movement. I'm not trying to say that, because it's going to require much broader than that. So the idea is, no, people are taking it seriously. I think so many things are hitting at once that it's tough for people to think in those terms when survival is really the
Pay enough not to riot. Yes, Greg?
Yeah,
And then Orlando.
I'm going to disagree, because I think that it's actually more likely it'll happen overnight than it'll be a gradual progression to a big planned general strike. I mean, yeah, maybe 2028, if nothing happens before then, will be something of a general strike, but we have no idea what the political conditions will be then. We don't even know. I mean, maybe by then we'll be under martial law or something. So, but in terms of kicking off a general strike, I mean, look what happened in Minneapolis with the killings of Preti and Renee Good. They called a general strike in Minneapolis, and they were pretty successful. So, I think that when you get the conditions, the outrage, the immediate outrage that people feel, um, then I think general strikes happen, and it happens
I
that way in
agree.
other
I'm not.
countries too.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
And it happens that way in other countries. So, it's anybody's guess what kind of situation would precipitate a national general strike in this country. But certainly, if there are other local situations which result in general strikes, like what happened in Minneapolis, then we could have a national general strike under some situation.
Orlando, then
Yeah.
Bill again.
I think we just need to take a book out of FIFA. You know how they did it when you have over 90,000 people going to watch parties, when you got over 260,000 people just coming into the Bay Area in general. And we did have a slight general strike, but it went over a lot of people's head. Soon, when America was gonna get ready to lose, and they try to blame the black guy, hey, you got suspended, you got red flag, you don't supposed to be in here. You see how much public silent outcry went behind this guy, so he can continue to lose the next game and then get blamed that he didn't have no papers. Now he want to get deported. So I think it's not the radical people, it's the calm people. We need them 900,000 people to visit the Bay Area that supposed to came here, got into local politics and helped us move along the agenda. But I think it's going to take, and it's sad, for a white person to be like a George Floyd, to be like another Nolan Wells, for people to rise up again. And I just think that's all they're waiting for, is to blame someone.
Bill, and then myself.
Well, I'm just gonna say, I agree that it's things can happen very quickly on a local basis. I don't dispute that at all, and perhaps something like that can translate to a kind of national phenomenon. But still, we're on a national level. Who know? For example, not that I want to reduce this to electoral issues, but let's say there's an attempt to totally suspend these upcoming elections. Could that trigger a national response that would shut down the country? It's possible. I mean, but it's it, it, it's an accumulation of things that have brought us to this point. There's no question about that. It's just you know, do we have any picture? Just yelling general strikes is not going to be sufficient. We have to be thinking, even while all these varied factors might trigger mass response. I mean, people have to have a vision, even in the 30s, even while there was, multiple opportunities. People believed we could really transform the whole society, and people have to believe that again. It can't just be opposition to repression, and all that goes with it, and racism, and other issues that we're fighting against. People have to have a vision of what we would like to see coming out of this, and so that's why I think it does require ongoing organizing. But anyway, I don't know. We're all speculating at this point.
Well, luckily, at least the Oakland Greens, we do have on all of our social media, we have actual policies and how it could be done and even paid for. We've actually talked about it. It's on our YouTube channel. I would have to agree that I don't think that gradual will work, only because if that was the case, it's been gradual since 1492. Okay, and that's like more of a bitter stance, but let's say since the industrial age, right? When all the Chinese came over and all those that died building the railroads and the exploitation of workers and everything that went through in the 30s. So I don't think I think it has to be something major. Shutting down if they shut down the elections, but I also think that in that scenario, when they do that, yes, you get the general strike response, but it also becomes the violent response that gives them the excuse that they're looking for to declare martial law and then keep it shut down. I do believe on that. So I agree that it's not better, but I also want to disagree that I don't think it's going to take what they killed that woman. I guess okay, she was a lesbian, so they can MAGA or fascist, not even fascist because they're fucking poor as shit too, right? The prejudiced people can rationalize that in their mind. Oh, she was lesbian, so it's okay. But the dude, he was a fucking VA nurse, white male, cis white male, heterosexual, fucking strapping young, all-grown, corn-fed American boy. Motherfuckers didn't give shit. And also, I would say too, yes, they did. It was outrage and shut it down for what? A couple of weeks? That's not going to do it, right? It does. How quickly did it fade out? We're like a nation of trends. People kept going back. I would like to say too, I think that is the negative of social media as well. They have everybody so controlled with that they've been doing it such a long time that it's hard to get people off of that to even make them think of, again, doing a general strike until we get universal health care. But that actually is my argument too. And I'm not even saying, oh, let's just, stop working and stop doing all that shit. I would love to see Alameda Labor Council, County Green, State Green Party, National, Teamsters, IATSE, right? The union that I am member, IATSE, fucking should be getting everybody pick a person, start meeting with Zoom or in person, whatever the fuck you want to do, or both, and start organizing this shit. Here's the date we want to do it. We're going to do it for this amount of time. Even, I would even say if it was start out with a 3-day action, right? We called for that for the 4th of July weekend since 4th of July was on a Friday. And if they would have listened, all the motherfuckers wouldn't have been stuck in San Francisco with all the fog and they couldn't see the goddamn fireworks anyway. Everybody was complaining. And then there was like a 4-hour traffic jam and public transit to get back home afterwards. So you didn't even get to see the fucking fireworks. Now you're cold and miserable for 4 hours waiting because everybody's fucking can't get out. I'm like, so, but yeah, I think it would take something like that maybe it would be more when we run out of drinking water. Maybe that would be the thing too. Like, oh, finally, your capitalist ways has now caused us to, fucking millions of people are going to die of dehydration because there's no water. I don't know. That's actually, I don't like that analogy and all that. I like the election one, even though I do think that, again, that equation gets us into the martial law they're looking for. And I think one of the only ways out of it is, again, trying to convince these large unions, workers, how to start getting together and organizing something that would be meaningful. Again, like you said, Bill, with like a set agenda, like here's what we're actually asking for, and sort of some of the things that went wrong that we didn't have straightforward during the Occupy movement. Once we were at that fucking was all established in front of City Hall, they should have started in those meetings instead of arguing, which is going on now, which seems to, and yes, for the 20 people, I understand that I go tangent. That is one of the people mentioned to me. But that even in the Occupy movement, in those meetings, in DSA, in the county greens, right? We don't have that so much here because we're all in the same, sort of generations and all that. But like the DSA now, East Bay, they're having that weird between the younger generation and the older generation fighting, and everybody's into their own egos instead of, again, not doing what's best for the movement and throwing their own bullshit aside. And when I mentioned the county, that was like way back when, where we had people who were just dragging the meetings out forever and ever and ever over policy and bylaws and how they talk to women, right? And it took violence, or at least the discussion of it, to get all that shit to stop. I don't know. We have to find a way around that. Anyway, that's where I will pause.
I think Orlando had his hand up.
Yes.
And then one more thing I was going to add on, for people don't have to be labeled as a domestic terrorist. And I think that scares a lot of folks also, too.
Yeah, you saw the stuff that Miller and Rubio just put out.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's where, does this go? It's not new in the sense that, although I'm not sure how many people know this history, in the late 40s, they had lists of hundreds of thousands of people they were ready to put into camps. And they weren't all, some were members of the Communist Party, but, majority were activists around labor, around race, around international issues. And the very fact that they had plans, and this wasn't, again, just something on the margin, most of the liberal politicians signed on to this as well because they didn't want to be labeled as, weak on communism. And while it's not exactly the same, obviously, in terms of having a target like the Soviet Union, who knows? I mean, a few years ago, we said, nothing like this could really happen. But who knows today what might happen? So,
yeah. Moving on to the next one is money in politics. And is that, I guess a question for that one is that something that needs to be in more of the forefront of something you had mentioned before, Bill? There's just so much, right? And that's part of Project 2025 too, just to create horrible chaos by throwing so much at you. There's so many different things, voting rights and everything else too, but is when we mention things when it comes to the social justice umbrella is the money in politics, because they're just spending so much on elections, even though it didn't really work in New York City. But is that, again, do you think that's just something that needs to be in the forefront of our conversations when we're talking about social justice?
Well, yeah, but the problem is that the Greens are too small to make any major change in that area right now. And the Democrats, whenever the Democrats have control of the government, like Biden's first 2 years or Obama's first 2 years, they don't do anything about it, and they know perfectly well about how corrupt the system is with all the influence and money. But, they have the Democratic Party billionaires and they have Republican Party billionaires. So um, Democrats are just fine with pretty much keeping it the way it is. There is a little change at the local level. I mean, up in Washington State, Seattle, they've had a program of public funding elections there. And Oakland actually passed something, but they weren't able to fund it. So who knows whenever Oakland's ever going to get that public funding. But at the federal level, nah, I think the Democrats are too corrupt. So unfortunately, it's just going to keep going until, like you say, until we have people out in the streets, whether it's a general strike or whatever, and then we change the political system. Yeah.
Well, I want to first kind of give more of a boost here too, that even though the Green Party doesn't have, because of the way the rules are, it's hard for it to get any sort of national traction as far as electoral politics and anything like that too. But don't get it twisted. The Green Party is the third largest party in the country, right? I mean, as far as the alternative go, we're the third largest. So I don't want to people to the 20 people that watch to think too that, oh, that the Greens are all small or anything. Well, it just seems like we're small as far as the percentage of votes we get because of, again, as much as the two parties supposedly hate each other, they sure do come together when it, comes to blocking out alternative political parties like the Green Party, who again is the third largest party in the country. So, all right, moving on, we're back into Israel again, which also ties back into the World Cup. It does seem that the World Cup this year had a lot more activism within it and in front of it and out and about, and it totally could be my own algorithm, right? So I don't know if people that aren't into sports, if that happened, and again, to plugging for the 14 people that'll watch this online, let me know. It doesn't have to be in the comments or anything. I'm not pushing for anything like that, but definitely, hit me up on an email and, as you do, and let me know what you think about that too. But so I think that it has been more. And if you hadn't seen the Egyptian coach, had a Palestine, I see Bill Palestine had his Palestinian and, was talking about all the, drama in the Congo was out in the open and all that stuff too. And Israel wasn't getting a pass this World Cup. And when people did well, and here's something else that came out this year in the World Cup too about how fucking racist Argentina is and their sympathy for the Nazis after World War II. Not just how they are as players on the pitch, but just the country itself. So it just seems like there was a lot more focus on the genocide and trying to bring the government of Israel accountable. And something that we talked about last month too, the fact that just because you criticize the government of Israel or even Zionism, that somehow you're anti-Semitic. It just isn't true. And they can spin that narrative as much. It just doesn't seem to be the public perception. Again, that can totally be my own algorithm. I get that. And, the circle of people that I talk to. But I also, too, patting myself back, again, I shout this shit in the grocery store, Fruit Avenue. So, and, I don't get a lot of pushback from just random folks. So, yeah.
Well, I think an event that by its very nature brings up all sorts of international questions, is an opportunity. It's not that we're not, critical of, the kind of financial issues, the environmental issues, just the traveling that was involved in this. But it is interesting that I mean, just like with the Olympics, those kind of questions almost always emerge. There were even people who had banners uh, at some of the Argentina games about the Malvinas and whether they were part of Argentina. So, that's, all to the good. And uh, I just read a piece today, about sympathy, and I agreed with for Spain, if only because of the politics that they're reflecting. So, um, yeah, you can't ignore and you shouldn't ignore these possibilities, even while you can appreciate, the athletic end of it, uh, which I do. Um, I think that Messi is probably one of the top two or three best known people on the planet, and there's no end to. At least it used to be young people I see with FC Barcelona paraphernalia and all that. Um, so it's I know a lot of people can just be cynical about it, but I think you also have to look at how it, both in a positive and a negative sense, it brings so many people together, not just the ones who were able to afford the tickets, uh, but you see these crowds. I don't know what they haven't released the numbers on um, who watched today's game, but 4 years ago, it was the equivalent of about a quarter of the people on the planet. And, so you can't just say, "Oh, well, forget that."
And we mentioned that when we were talking, like, how do we harness that energy of that so many people are beloved? It is the most popular sport on the planet, on the planet. To the tune of now, this we were talking about this small West Africa island nation is probably going to watch their GDP rise a whole percentage point because of what they did in the fucking World Cup, right?
Right. I
And
didn't
people
even
doesn't,
know the
and
cable.
I knew they were going to do that because, again, being like such a sports fan, like I watched the qualifiers. So you watch,
Right.
and it's by region. So the
Right.
Africa Cup is different, and all those different things. So I was like, oh yeah, they weren't there by some fluke,
No.
right?
Well, I didn't
Um,
even know Cape Verde was an independent country. I harken back to the days in the late '60s and '70s when it was part of Guinea-Bissau, and which was a very important struggle, um, along with Angola and Mozambique. And but since then, I hadn't heard anything about it till now. So it
right.
gives rise to people just being aware of a lot of places.
Well, they didn't gain their independence from Portugal until 1975. So, it wasn't that long ago.
Right. No, I remember, but
Yeah.
and it almost triggered. Um, it was one of the factors that uh, created a pre-revolutionary situation. A lot of people forget that. I was there. I was in Portugal uh, at that time, and it was amazing. Not just that people were arming themselves and all that, but they were building like councils to deal with not just factories but housing, everything. The one thing that one can say is, unlike other areas where there'd been this kind of upsurge, it didn't end up in a vicious counter revolution. So that was all to the good.
Yes, I think here in this country, people don't realize unless probably first generation here, how political the World Cup is when you have teams like Portugal, Spain, England, France, you know, Morocco. So you have all these African nations that get pumped up, and they're just like, oh well, and I understand what you're saying because I was colonized by your country and I speak your
Right.
language. Like you can't be making those secret plans around me, motherfucker.
Right.
I speak French, right? And then how that goes. So yes, all agreed. And moving on to our last discussion topic before we get to breeze through things, which has been great too. Thank you all for participating. This is what I look for. Um, the last one is again, we're going back into sex worker rights and FOSTA-SESTA and what's happening. Like I said, I had been sent an article on they're trying to deal with International Avenue
Mm.
for again the 10 people that will watch this. Uh, Here in Oakland, we have two major tracks for street providers. That is International Boulevard, or East 14th, if you've been in Oakland a long time, and then San Pablo Avenue, over in what they call West Oakland. San Pablo Avenue, their struggles, along with the normals of exploitation of women, trafficking, and diseases, their drug of choice seems to be on that one is heroin. And it has
Yeah.
been for a while. There's other ones, but heroin is the big one over there. Here on International, actually, ironically, their drug use per capita is starting to go down as opposed to drinking and smoking weed. But we'll take that. But that's also where the Oakland Greens now has kind of put their work. I mean, this is where I live.
Mm.
Those are my neighbors, right? So it can be, I have a bumper sticker on my car, community kills fascism. And so, we try to work on that. And we did, right? In the article, they interviewed a 17-year-old, again, getting off a bus, coming from somewhere, runaways and things like that. But International itself, though, has seen a decline in underage trafficking. But that was specifically because the organizers, at least three of the five that kind of run everything, big ones over there, made at least the verbal commitment on their own for that. But what they didn't talk about in the article too of why disease and stuff start to drop is because over at least on International, I give out free condoms constantly. I mean, I keep buckets in my car. Berkeley Free Clinic used to do that, has a mobile, that they would go out and even free testing and things like that too, and just having those discussions. So it still is an issue, of course. We mentioned it, I think it was off recording, but we've all come to the realization now that the people that are in charge of our corporations and governments, a large portion, far too many, well, one is too many, but they're all a bunch of pedophiles and hebephiles, right? Those are the ones they're trafficking, all of these people. It's, even though it's a problem on the block, the real problem is, globally. And I think it's part of capitalism and that stuff too. And I will pause. Yes, please, Orlando.
Yeah. Oh, my bad. My bad. Yeah, I worked with Sanjay Swanson, and when he was in Sacramento, and he was working on Sex Bill 233. I mean 33, and he had Barbara Lee. The same people that was supporting him to get the bill, and it was basically for a lot of the underage kids that was out there on International. But 3 years ago, International makes about $2 million a year just off sex trafficking alone. So my question was from Sandre that asked the police department, if y'all know that it's $2 million floating, 75% of the money comes from the Oakland airport for people traveling in and out. When you get to 25% of people coming from San Francisco, I mean 15%, but the critical part was the 5 and 10% of the young males that are from Oakland, Richmond, whether the surrounding areas or whatnot. How can you protect them for being a victim? Some of the young men that might have been trafficking these women, a lot of them been molested, been abused, a lot of them been abused and so forth. So he was trying to combat the behavior on why they doing this, you don't hear about the bill no more.
Well, it's
So I
actually
think,
true. Even the adult content creators, many of
mm,
them had been abused, and that is true for the men as well. And I know at least among the First Nations, there's starting to be a shift, even though there are still a lot of groups that focus specifically on women and girls. The line now is MMIP, Murdered and Missing Indigenous Peoples, because it is happening to young boys as well. And it is, yeah, just in general, just the exploitation of youth, whether it be sex work or anything else, is horrible. Like we talked about, chocolate, which slavery, right? In the coca industry, the cocaine industry and stuff like that too. So it gets really bad. And when we talked about specifically the law FOSTA-SESTA, what that did was shut down the actual anonymous sites where adult providers contacted each other to say who the predators were.
Hmm.
This person, wants you to dress up young and they get violent and they don't pay, whatever it is. That's where they would communicate and say, hey, here's this person, and don't, service them because it's dangerous. And when they say it's supposedly going to protect, because it doesn't, actually the amount of children trafficked went up when that law went into effect.
Hmm.
And all that stuff too. And so it's just a matter of locally. And I get it too, again, to the 25 people that'll watch this online. When we do this work, we're not trying to deregulate or decriminalize and actually stop sex work, right? And it definitely is the Oakland agreement that, what consenting adults do, and then with their own body, not just along with the right to abortions and that type of healthcare, whatever you want to do, if it's in a safe and respectful manner, and they have that. Again, sex work is work, right? The sex worker rights is labor rights, and we are firmly entrenched in that as well. So yeah.
The thought has crossed my mind because when I was at Castlemont, we would have to deal with quite a few, and again, this was more about the young women, uh, women who were in group homes and things like that, being a place that was heavily exploited. I'm wondering if there are attempts to exploit people who are homeless now in regard to this. But of course, the question is where would they go exactly? But it has crossed my mind whether they're more vulnerable in terms of trying to be exploited this way.
Absolutely. I would say that is true. Um, they definitely are subject to getting raped and things like that too. And it's really sad. But we do the best we can. It kind of ties back to when I was teaching, and you get the girls team from all the different drug families and trying to stop them from doing violence, and you do that, but then you just united 3 drug families. But how I've always rationalized that when we're doing this organizing is that I'm just navigating the fucking river that's in front of me, man. Right?
Right.
I am one person. I can't dam up the river. So I'm just trying to navigate the rough waters and as the best I can, and do, little steps as much as you can. And if I can stop the people who are actually running shit from using younger women, I'm all for that, right? If I can get them to talk about healthcare and safe sex practices, I am all for that.
Right.
So getting them off of drugs and all those, yeah, I'm all for that. All right. That was really good. That does conclude the discussion portion of the green meeting here. Now we're just going, this should go pretty quick now. The next one is, which I did not go to, was Suds Snacks and Socialism. Do we even know what the topic was last or this month?
Well, we're taking a we have a summer break, so for um July and August we're off, but we're going to be dealing with the elections again, and some of the initiatives so people, have information. Obviously, the ones on uh, taxing the rich are important, but there are a range of other things that may be coming up, and we're trying to push uh, people like Mark Rendon to get more publicity. The fact that he qualified is quite impressive, um, and so those are the next two. We've been talking about a range of other possibilities, and you know, just always let me know what might be a priority. We were thinking about some of the issues around uh, the port and the airport expansion and all of that. That's a possibility. And anyway, so that's where we're at. We meet at least 2 times a month to discuss. So as I said, just drop me a line and let me know if you have thoughts on it.
Yeah, I need to get to more of them because it would also can hand out promotion material for our movie nights. Um, and just to support them because it's good work. I still would, as always, I'd love to see them get a little more radical and be yelling about electoral politics more and slates and things like that. And how do we connect it? And I also want to get more involved in the DSA too and see if I can, I don't know, get them to stop fighting amongst the generations and see what's really going on and actually be there. Don went to the last one. He liked it, but also said the same thing where it's like, oh, there seems to be this discontent between the two generations. And then the next one is the Green Sunday report back. That was all
Oh
right.
yeah, yeah. We had David Cobb talk about solidarity economy, and it started off with a relatively small audience, so he kind of made it pretty informal, and a lot of people got to ask a lot of questions. Of course, it was a lot about worker co-ops, and here in the East Bay, we've got a number of worker co-ops, and so it was a good highlight um, discussion on that stuff. And later on, more people came, and but I think it's recorded, but I don't know if it's up yet. So
It is.
um,
It was recorded. It is not up yet.
okay. So I guess hopefully Justin will get a chance to put it up in the next week or so.
Yes, yes, I will get ours up next week, and we're going to have edits next week as well. Yes, I enjoyed. David is definitely a mentor. I think he's amazing. Does good work, and I actually love the more informal ones. Was always with Michael Rubin, with the ancestors. Was always on about that we actually should have more discussion as opposed to presentations. But anyway, but yes, it was really informative. I have some of the screenshots of the slides, to get those up on our social media. And yeah, I thought it was a really good Green Sunday. Even the meeting afterwards was okay. All right, and moving on, next one is social media and outreach. I was at the SF Mime Troop on Thursday, handing out materials for ourselves and candidate. Even though I know it's not in Oakland's not in the district where they're running, but we were out there. It was well attended. I want to say again, and this is not even political. It wasn't my favorite of theirs, but they've been around 67 years. You can't hit it out the park every time, right? Sometimes you only get a single, sometimes you get a double. You don't always get a home run. And being that it's also the career that I'm in as in putting on events and shows and all that stuff too. Just as it too. But it was beautiful weather. It wasn't too hot, not too cold, well attended. I would say it was, I don't know about, I only went Thursday. I wouldn't say that it was still diverse in age so much. Definitely not ethnicity. We still haven't bridged that gap. Um, but again, it's always, they're always well attended and they've been around forever. And I encourage people to support them and go out anyway. It's a fun night out and it's donation based, doesn't cost you a fucking thing. You can put $1 in the goddamn bucket, a quarter, whatever, they don't care. So you go out there and I don't know what it is too, and I say this when I'm there too. I always get warm and fuzzy feelings anytime I see people using public space. I
Right.
think that
Right.
is fucking life. This other bullshit that we do, so we have that time off, is not life. That is not living, right? That is part of what you say for surviving. But out there with community and yeah, anyway, it was really good.
Geographically, they're getting a bigger range these days. Um, I was originally going to go this weekend, but the combination of the World Cup and the weather discouraged me. But I plan to go. But yeah, I didn't hear great things about this production. But as you said, it's part of a culture that we have to support it, and it brings people together in a way that, and just relaxing together, not just hearing some kind of political diatribes. That always is positive, and we have to fight, to make things more available in public space. So I totally agree.
And also for, the 19 people that are going to watch this online, that when I say it, it still had a great message, great points. Just sometimes, again, you just can't hit a home run every time.
Right.
Every year. They write a new play every year. They
Right.
don't repeat. They do not repeat. So yes, we still have to support that culture, and it was good. Usually they're great,
Yeah, right.
right? It'd be like you go to your favorite restaurant, and always I do. I have a food truck that's right next to the laundromat where I do my laundry. They knock it out of the park every time. If I was to go there and get a taco that, no, it was okay, but not how they know. I wouldn't fucking know. I'd still eat there fucking again. That's for damn sure. Because I'm sorry, fucking, one time out of 10, it was only good. It wasn't amazing.
Right.
So, and that's what I would say here, that usually they're amazing. They're excellent. This one was good. Yeah, it was good. What do you say? Yes, Orlando.
I think every year when they do it, depends on what topic. Last year they had good topics, good things going on.
Right.
I think this was so chaotic, but that's why I want to say I appreciate you, Bill. You remind me of Wilson. That's for one.
Right.
But for two, your wisdom from your labor union and all your experience, it makes a great difference for us to learn the logistics of it and understand when we go into something, why we are going and how we can work around it. And I appreciate you for that.
Well, thank you, Orlando, for such kind words.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's really good at making sure that we fucking hear that shit. And yes, I think just like what we had said on this report back before too, there's just so much, and they did try to touch on everything, AI. It's just too much to deal with at once, and that's part of the game they're playing against us. Is to just throw so much shit at us that we just can't, you can never get it just get it perfectly clean. But yes, please, people, go and support. Yeah, good, not great. Any other outreach? I didn't do any of it too. No? Cool. Moving on, we have our events, our June movie report back again for their being very well attended. Right, right. Lots of people. And last month's movie, Don't Look Up, was a lot lighter than Sugarcane the month before, which I would even say Sugarcane was actually heavier, or at least affected me deeper than Zone of Interest, the first one we did about the Nazi concentration camp. Maybe because one was a documentary and one was a movie about it, right? that shit they were showing was happening like almost in real time. We were getting it hit to us. But yes, it was, well, the discussions have been great. Those are up already. The videos from that are up on our social media. And then our July movie coming up as well. Oh my gosh. It was right there in my head. But I will tell you in 30 seconds. I will find out what it is because I have it on my page. Nope, on the Open Greens page, maybe. Yep, it is Age of Disclosure. How could I forget that? Because that's such a good movie, which is about the UAPs now that they are fully admitting that we're not alone, as it were. So it is more of a documentary, but it's not heavy. Don't worry about, please come. Me too. I had all the registrations are open for everything and people are registering, which I appreciate. Again, to the 9 people that'll watch this, thank you very much for registering because it gives me an idea of how much food that we should buy. And it helps us again with donations. Um, any questions about the movie that's coming up? No? Yeah. So moving on to, so we already have 2027 written. And I want to go over it with you if you didn't see it in the email. And then I'll answer any questions. And of course, as we get closer to November, I will be sending out the trailers for everything, or if something comes up that someone else thought we should add, let me know, we can change. We are trying to take, again, because I just mentioned how heavy this season was and seasons in the past too. That is not, I wouldn't call it a criticism, but it definitely are comments that the movies that I bring and that we vote on and we pick, and of course it should be, we're a social justice or group, are super heavy, and could we mix it up more? So next year we are trying to go and bring more comedies. But as always, I can tie anything into the social justice movement, and it's easy. So January, we're going to be showing Blazing Saddles. February, Nuremberg. March is Outbreak. April is Older Than America. May is History of the World Part 1. June is Lumumba. July is Luis Theroux Inside the Manosphere. August is The Only Good Indian. September is Monty Python's The Holy Grail. October is American History X. And as we're doing this year, November will be another comedy show, and we're going to call it The Last Laugh Laughing.
Pardon me 1 second. I'll
Sure.
be right.
Sure. Any questions on movies? How many do you recognize?
Is History of the World a Monty Python?
No, Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks, that's it. Okay.
Mel Brooks.
Well,
I heard you giggle, Bill. I heard you
Grails.
giggle at some of the titles.
Yeah. The confrontation, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where his limbs get progressive.
Oh, yes. I'll bite your ankles off. Absolutely. Those have become like, phrases within our culture.
I know.
Don't be a flesh wound.
Right.
Say that, everybody knows what you're talking about.
Right.
Things like that too. So, but I think it's a good mix. Lumumba is a great movie. Again, that's about the Congo. Only Good Indian. We are going back to the Christian schools, but it's a movie, not a documentary. American History X is kind of heavy, but it does have a kind of a happy ending at the end. Yeah, I think it's a good mix for next year. No other questions? Announcements?
Yeah, I have an announcement.
Yes, please.
Bill might didn't know, my brother passed Monday.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, due to complications of the street life. But besides all that, I lost my middle brother. Man, it was really close, really tight.
Wow.
And, losing Wilson, then losing my brother, and, going in a situation with Don and so forth, it just took a big hit on me. So that's why I've been back, just trying to get my mind and my emotions, intelligence to the right state to get back more active. But I'm just, breathing for the ancestors. And like I say, Bill, I appreciate you and Greg and Vicente. So, I just take it to heart that I love y'all and I'm always there for y'all. And thank y'all for being here for me during difficult times.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear.
Yeah.
I know you support people so well. Having to carry that burden at the same time, I know must be very tough. Anyway, our thoughts are with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I can grieve well. That's what I always say. Now, I always wrestle with, we have such a weird relationship with death and things. And yeah, I just think that we should not be, it is part of life. And, people say you only live once. That's not true. You live every day, you only die once. So grieve well, and, we're always there. Anything else? Then nearing none. Well, that ends the recorded portion of our event, of our monthly meeting. You are again, this is still open to the public. If you want to hear about our finances, come here. We just don't record it and put it online. And again, I'm Vicente Cruz, Oakland Greens Event and Fundraising Coordinator. We hope to see you at our monthly events, and definitely go to our webpage, theoaklandgreens.org, go to our events page, and we're going to have a great last end of the year event in November. And you can actually see me ever do stand up for the first time ever. And I wouldn't lie that I haven't said that I hadn't written anything or rehearsed, but I will not have performed it in front of people ever until that particular event. But fear not, even though I'm not the comedian, everyone else behind me are professional comedians that are really good from the Bay Area, and people that some that I know. And anyway,
Sounds good.
yeah, thanks again, everyone. And
one last thing, we probably,
yep.
I don't know if we should, probably next month, have some kind of report back from the National Green Party Convention. That's coming up very shortly.
I will have that on next month's agenda for sure. Thank you. We'll see everybody then.